A woman's looks does not matter. It is how much she is doing for you that matters.
Expectations lead to disappointment. Expectations lead to arguments in a lot of ways.
You should not expect somebody to act a certain way, and when they do or don't, you should have a backup plan for that.
As I'm trying to figure out what's happening, why 40% or 50% of Black women over 40 are not married or have these in-depth relationships. All right. Hey, welcome to another edition of I Love Wiats. And as we talk about, this is the real story, right? Why we're having issues, or maybe we're not having issues. It's up to the folks who are listening. But according to some of the stats, the one that I brought up last week when we were on, is that 40 or 50% of women that are over, Black women, that are over the age of 50, or no, over the age of 40, 50% over the age of 40 are not married. And going along with that, 74% have had at least one child. And so marriage as an institution is not happening in Black families, and we're trying to understand and kind of talk about as we go through why that might be, why there is this belief that either Black men aren't good enough, or as we heard last week, a lot of the women that were on said that a lot of the viewpoints are that that they don't need a man and men aren't important. And we did establish last week that relationships are important, that it is something that we believe that God has put us on this earth for. So if folks are not getting married, the question then becomes, are they just cohabitating? And in many cases, when we talk to a lot of the single moms, that's not the case. There's statistics about how many single moms, out of that 74% of women who have had a child over 40, it said that 50% of them are raising their children alone. But we're also talking about just the general relationships. Last week that I want to kind of jump into this week is chivalry. We talked about that and what that means, and I kind of found out, what we realized is that I don't know if everybody even understands what it is. I know that James talked about his nephew last week, and saying he didn't want to get married because he didn't want to have to give up half, and knowing that he's going into this relationship thinking it's going to end anyways. You don't think about having to give away half if you think that it's going to last forever. And so we really want to talk about that. But we have a special guest on today. We have Alicia Sweet on tonight. And I want to, before we jump into these questions and try to answer and try to solve the problems of the world, I would love for you, Alicia, to just tell us who you are and why you decided to even join us today. That would be great.
Well, thank you, Dr. B, for having me. Like he said, my name is Alicia Sweet. I am an active duty Army major. I am a business owner of an executive coaching company, and I'm a mother of two. I've been married and divorced, and currently in a 4-year relationship where we're considering marriage. But right now, we're just together and we're happy. We're life partners. So I consider the panel discussion tonight to hopefully add some value and bring a different perspective than what y'all have been having. So, my friend James asked me to join, and I was like, why not? And here I am.
Well, I would love, because the other folks, and I know you haven't been able to be on till tonight, which is great, to kind of just give your viewpoint, maybe as a child growing up, what you were taught about men, Black men in particular, that might have wanted you to get closer faster or to kind of shy away and be more careful. I don't know what that was, but maybe you can kind of share, your upbringing. You're very successful now, and so there had to be some clues that are in there. And so What are some of those things that you may have been taught?
So my upbringing is very rare in today's society. My parents, actually, their wedding anniversary is Christmas Eve because they're each other's present. So they've been married for 54 years. They got married when my mom was 16 in 1970, and they are still very much in love. They're awesome. And I think I had a real unrealistic expectation watching the way my dad treated my mom. Because my mom never worked as far as I'm concerned. So I have 3 older brothers, and I'm the youngest and the only girl. And so it's 10 years apart from me and my brother. So if I'm 38, my youngest brother is 48, and then they go up to 51. So my mom, when I say
You're surprised.
What'd you say?
You were surprised.
I was. They tell me all the time. Like Christmas Eve, they slipped up, and my birthday's in September. Like, absolutely. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. But when I say she didn't work, I mean she didn't work for a company. But we grew all of our fruits and vegetables. We had 3 meals a day. I was in track, gymnastics, cross country, basketball. She took me to every practice. She was the mom of all of us. All my brothers played sports, so she was always there. And my dad came home, gave her the check, and she paid all the bills. She made sure we had food. My dad and my brothers hunted for us. And, my brothers always talk about how I got a different version of our parents than they had. So, like, they got to see my parents struggle and kind of grow up. And my dad would take them hunting, and he'd be like, look, guys, I got, 30 bullets. Everybody gets, 6 apiece, and we got to bring home dinner. So they had to be a good shot, where that was the struggle versus with me. When I got to go hunting, we had unlimited ammunition, and I got to pick the weapon of choice, right? So to grow up and expect somebody to treat me the way my dad treated my mom, it's like I almost had to lower my standards in this aspect, because they don't make men like that anymore, to where, like, I will take care of everything and you take care of the kids. I don't even think there's a woman, because they've had that whole, like, era of independence movement in society. I think that has taken away from chivalry, and the want to be sitting at home and taking care of the kids. Like, I have to contribute to in an aspect. So that was my upbringing. There's, like I said, they stay 2 hours and 30 minutes away, still very much together and in love. And my dad has retired now. He worked, excuse me, my printer.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, excuse me. My printer. But yeah, like, so my dad retired 50 years at the paper mill, and like they travel and do things, and just they're in their sweet spot of their life right now. So that's my upbringing.
So kind of the traditional, what we saw on TV, what we believed, were the traditional families. Now, did you go straight into the military after high school, or did you go to college?
I joined the military at 17. And it's only not because I had to, only because I really wanted to. My youngest brother, he had a full scholarship to Louisiana Tech, and to play football. He went and he like completely messed it up. And he was like smoking weed, hanging out with girls, not going to class, and lost his scholarship. And my parents like put a lot into him. So me being at home, I heard them say that, like, oh, we spent all this money on Andre. I can't believe he did this. And I was like, oh, that'll never be me. And I was like, I'll go to college. And I like promised my dad, like, Dad, I'll join the military and I'll go to college and I won't have any babies out of wedlock. And that was the thing. And he like did not want me to join, but I wanted to join and make my own money and go to school on my dime, because I didn't want to disappoint them in the aspect, because like they probably did tell my brother they were disappointed, but I heard it more because I was at home. And you know how back in the day they on the house phone with the long cord. You ain't gonna believe Andre went up there and Tech and showed his ass, And it was just, I was just like, I could hear how disappointed and see how disappointed he was, how disappointed my parents were, because they had so much faith that he would, go and do this. He was so talented. So I didn't want to do that to my parents. And I just wanted to get away, because I'm from a town that has like 5 stoplights. So I was like, I got to see the world. And like, I had all this stuff I wanted to do from reading all these books I had read growing up. So that's why I left at 17.
Well, I want to say first, thank you for your service, that you were willing to do that, which is huge. And the reason I asked the question wasn't that one was better than the other, or I thought that, oh man, she went to the service instead of the college. I asked that because I'm very curious as to the culture change, or if there was one, from once you went into the military, what the other women that you were around were saying about men and marriage and, you know, the whole dating relationship, thing. It wasn't way different than when the way you grew up. It seems like you grew up in rural. If you're out there shooting and hunting and, you know, guns, you're not in the city, unless you were shooting some rats or something. But you know, I kind of feel you're out, you know, shooting pheasants and that kind of stuff. And so, what kind of maybe share a little bit, and then I'm gonna have James ask some questions as well.
Okay, yeah. So similar to my mom, I actually married my high school sweetheart at a young age because it was like I wasn't allowed to date. So like the first guy that I dated, we dated probably like my junior year, well, my like the sophomore summer through high school, and I married him, and that was like the person that I was with. There was no dating, not with three brothers. Everybody thinks they're my dad. So I was too busy in sports, and it wasn't. I wish I would have had a traditional dating experience because now I'm like very reserved and getting married now. I'm like looking over because my partner is sitting right here, but I'm very reserved to like, hold on, but I'm very reserved to like jump into getting married because like I've been married, I've been divorced. Like I am very successful. He is too, but I also like, I've never dated a lot of people. Like it was very frowned upon. So like I said, I got married at a very young age. I was married at 17. We divorced at 20, unfortunately, not because we fell out of love, but this is how I met James. Actually, he was like, he was my section chief over our section, but like he was the person I was with. I guess like the military must have changed him or something, but he started being mean and like putting his hands on me. And I was like, I've never seen my dad put his hands on my mom. And it was just, I don't know. It's just, I didn't know how to react in that experience. And he could tell you like knowing me now at 38 and then knowing me at like 18. So he's known me practically my whole career, two very different people, but I honestly didn't know how to react in that sense. I just knew I had to kind of leave. And then I was scared to tell my parents because how do you tell your parents that you're getting a divorce when they've been married 50 years? You know what I mean? Like they have been through everything. So I kind of felt like, am I not like enduring enough? Like, do I not have it? Like, so that was my growing up dating experience. Like you date who you marry. And then like, even if a guy tried to talk to me, my brothers would beat him up. Like it was crazy.
Wow.
And so I didn't they were like, you like my sister? And it was like, I remember this one guy was like, yeah, I think she's pretty. And my brother picked him up and dropped him on his head, like literally. So everybody was like, don't talk to Sweet because her brothers will kill you. So I didn't get that experience. And I think maybe having reps and sets and dating kind of lets you know what you will like and what you don't like, what to tolerate, what not, and so forth. So actually, I absolutely did that. After I got a divorce, I went to Korea for a little while. And then I got in another long-term relationship, but we didn't marry, but we dated probably like a year and a half. And I was like kind of hip to like how guys are and navigating that space. And I was like, you're lying to me. And then I found out about it and he kind of just like left. And I was like, well, back to being focused on me. And I think that like women, a lot of times, like our tolerance is low to BS because like at that time I had my little baby and then I was like, I have to finish my degree. I have to go to officer school. I have to do all of this stuff because I have this human that looks like me and depends on me. So I have to be successful to take care of her. So my tolerance for guys playing games was minimal. Like I remember there's a lot of guys interested in me, but they were like still in the club, still worried about rims, still worried about like materialistic things where I'm worried about like I gotta save. I got to like cook dinner. I got to like do this. Like, so I had to grow up really fast to answer your question.
Yeah, no, this is really good. And I think we have an opportunity here if your partner there is willing to get on, because I'd love to ask both of you questions together as you are. So you can see here in a second. James, do you have any question before you jump on with this?
No, just a comment.
Okay.
When I was in section, when I was her section chief, and he did lay hands on her. She came to work and she was shy about it, right? I don't know if he was hiding your face with them. I said, "What happened to you?" She told me I lost my mind and went over there, threatened the guy, everything. Got the first on involved, everything, because maybe it was a chivalrous part of me. I have sisters. I have 28 siblings, right? And you know, I really hated to see somebody who has so much potential, who has so much going on, you know, getting beat up in the army. What, you're supposed to be safe in the army, right? And if you work with me, it's my responsibility to make sure that all my soldiers are safe. As a matter of fact, there was some kind of relay race or something, and I was driving in, and I saw him like going over to her, and I pulled my car in, and I think I stopped him from coming over to you. But chivalry is dead for a lot of reasons, right? One of which, if you're talking about, my mother and father were married, you know, throughout their life, right? Didn't really grow up in a single parent household. However, my mother and father really didn't do too much together, right? My father really didn't spend that much time, you know, with me or my brother solely, right? He was into motorcycle riding and drinking and, you know, hanging out with his friends and stuff. My mother was deeply in the church. So I remember the one time my father went to church, and one of his hunting buddies was in church with us, and they were outside talking, and he said, "Hey, Sonny," they call my father Sonny. "Sonny, that's a nice suit you got on. Too bad it's not your size." And that made my father stop going to church, basically, right? But chivalry is dead for a lot of reasons. Like I said, you can't really operate in a single income house anymore, right? Everybody has to contribute because the price of everything is very high, right? And then there's so many outside influences that we didn't have when we was younger, or your parents didn't have. There was no Facebook. There was no texting on phones. There was none of that. We didn't even have we had one of those rotary phones, right? Take a half hour to call somebody, right? So, you know, there's a lot of outside influences that we didn't have growing up. Like rap music, when I was a kid in New York growing up, rap was for criminals, right? Police would come break up the parties, everything. Now, rap is common, right? There's a lot of curses, vulgarity, degradation of women, you know, the N-bomb, everything else. So those influences tie into the disintegration, I would say, of chivalry, right? And how we treat each other. But that's all I got to say right now. Let Alicia's other half come on. I don't think I ever met him.
What, Alicia, what's his name?
Rico.
Rico. How you doing today, Rico?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Good. You can squeeze over a little bit. So we've been talking about chivalry, and I'm excited that you're here, and she talks so highly about you. What would you say chivalry means to you? And maybe it's changed over time, but we'd love to kind of get your thought process. You're a little bit younger than James and I, you know, when we grew up in a different era. But what does that mean to you when you think about how to treat a woman? And then I want to get the exact same question to you, Alicia, after that, after you kind of talk about it a little bit.
Well, first, I want to thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely.
I heard Mr. Young say that chivalry is dead. In my opinion, I don't believe it's dead. I think it's just being smothered by independence.
Okay.
So,
What's your definition of chivalry?
So when it comes down to chivalry, my definition includes the standard opening doors, pulling back chairs, listening, things of that nature. Your compliments, the standard things that you learn. And the interesting part about all of that is that I grew up in a single parent household with my mom only, but I learned all this from gentlemen that I've met in my life. I picked up their habits, some good, some bad, and you discard the ones that you don't need. And throughout my time, I've seen marriages that been around for years, lasted years. I've seen marriages break up, but just because they broke up, they didn't have bad deeds or bad things to put in me. So that is how I gained a lot of my chivalry over time. Now, I also believe that when it comes down to chivalry, it goes both ways also. Because from a female perspective, chivalry is considered listening, being able to listen to your partner. What's the other words they may use? No, the standard, it may say cooking, but I think all people can cook. Supporting. Even as simple as when the last time you got a compliment about your shirt look nice. No, those things go far with men also. Being understood that us as men, we have feelings also. So that chivalry piece, it goes, there's a balance got to be given. And if you're not receiving the other end, you're not getting your chair pulled out. If you can't even say, hey, thank you, or I consider this, etc., etc. So, but that's probably the long way. But bottom line, like I said at the very beginning, in my opinion, chivalry is not dead. I think it's being smothered by independence
and society.
And you can say society, but once again,
because he made a good point. I didn't think about like the impact of social media and music on the perspectives of relationships. And so the younger generation coming up, they're listening to this crap that's on social media and in music that's really not music to us, but they think that's how you treat somebody or how you talk to somebody.
Yeah, but that's not fair, in my opinion, to the younger generation. Because I grew up in the 90s. I grew up with NWA. I grew up with 2 Live Crew.
He's 45 and I'm 38.
So, I mean, we can't
Yeah.
argue about the music across the board.
But it does have an impact.
It has an impact. And I think that's I believe that's very unfair to the younger generation, especially the music that we grew up on. I'm talking NWA, 2 Live Crew, Pars and Clan. I can go down this list of individual of groups that was just like Onyx. You can choose your group. But what I'm saying is that that's not fair to the younger generation. Now, far as adulthood, I have all daughters. So, and with that being said, it is upon me as a father to explain chivalry. Like, for example, I open the doors for my daughters. I had one daughter open the door for us like that. I can open my own door. I'm independent. I said, that ain't the point.
That's the point, yeah.
That ain't the point. The point is that when you meet a young man, he needs to open doors for you. You need to be able to have a decent conversation. All those small things. If you're teaching from a male perspective, then one, your daughter's expected. That's one. But most importantly, when your kids bring home said individuals, you point and explain that stuff also. As a parent, as an adult, you set those expectations. And even if they don't know, now they understand that there's a certain expectation on me. I'm expecting you to meet.
Oh, tell them about the guy that hung on the door.
Oh yeah, I had this one experience. My daughter at the house, and what happened was that instead of coming to knock on the door and speak to everybody, this young man decided to make a phone call a phone, and honk the horn. So, and she proceeds to get up, and I proceeds to stop her. I'm like, what are you doing? I got my phone call, my ride is here. I said, no, it doesn't work like that. So I proceed to go outside with my pistol in hand, and I tapped on what's going on? You looking for something? He was like, I'm coming to see such and such. I'm like, my friend, this is the wrong house. Ain't no you can select words. Stay in here. I said, now if you're an adult, you're a man about this, I need you to get out the car, come knock on the door, speak to her mom, speak to me. This way we can see you can see us. And then from there, we can all have a decent conversation, and then you can go about your business. He looked at me, he said, yes, sir. I said, all right, then, come on out then. Put the pistol up, went back and said, we're going to take it again. Step 2. I said, hey, take 2. I said, you sit right here. I'm going to go in the house. I'm going to close the door. Then you come up. Then we're going to do this whole process, and then we're going to go through this. And we did all this, and he understood the expectation.
I think that's really good. I'm glad you did that, but I also think what in his life that didn't teach him before he showed up to your house that was the way that it was supposed to happen. Do we just expect that our young men automatically know this? He knows it now, and I would assume. But if you don't do that, and let's say that the daughters, you're not home, right? You're not being as a dad, and it's a mom. Then a mom goes, yeah, go ahead and go, and then he never learns that. and then he starts to keep moving. How do we help to make sure that is happening? I know you got your pistol out there. I don't know if he saw it or not, but
to be fair,
yeah.
They were friends. I mean, they were legit friends. But in my mind, friend or not, you still should come by and come speak in general. I see you, you see me. This is what I know. The last time I see my kid, she was with a guy with a hoodie on. It had New Orleans Saints on it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? I'm able to see you. But even though they was friends, I'm pretty sure because they were friends was where that particular notion came from. But in my mind, friends are not, friends are not. You still need to have that type of consideration for an adult. Because to me, it's just more or less that was even just a simple respect for the adults in the house type deal.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So chivalry, all that stuff, it all weaves in, goes hand in hand, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. That's, it's just sometimes I wonder where are they getting, the belief that just because I have a phone and I can text somebody or any of those, what time do I need to have her home by? Or, when they start that dating. I know one of the things that I did, I have 5 sons and 3 daughters, and all my daughters went out on a date with me so they could see what the expectation was when they were younger. This is how I expect, a man to show up and to, like you said, open doors and, pay for dinner and, go to the movies, and I know that's, I'm independent. I can pay for my own meal and that kind of stuff. But, I just want to set the expectation of, of what it is that I'm expecting, and I talk to my sons about it too. This is how I expect you to treat women. And I know you're going to get, another woman that's probably, or a young woman who's probably been taught by a mom to hate you, and that was a real thing, where they were told a whole bunch of stuff about men because they were upset with the man they had and expected that everybody that showed up to the house or came knocking was going to be that guy and all the things and fears. Alicia, what kind of talk to us about what you believe chivalry to be, and the things that your expectations are in this relationship dating arena.
In addition to everything that he said, as far as like opening doors and chairs, and that's great. I think it also goes beyond that to where thoughtfulness and consideration, respect, like how you deal with your partner, right? So like while I'm in the military and a lot of people have access to me, there's only certain things that he's entitled to, right? And I might feel a certain way about something, and because of my love for him and my respect for him, I'll take time to process it and digest it and say it in a lovingly way. Whereas I will be very direct with somebody at work, like this is how it's going to be. So I think like courtesy, respect, and kindness are chivalrous, and I think that's something that both partners can exude, and it's not just on the man. And I don't think it's being independent. Like, yes, he pays for a lot of our meals, but I also think like sometimes I take him out, like, and it doesn't have to be a birthday or a special event. I can be like, hey, put on something nice. Like, I bought you this shirt. Let's go. And I think that's okay to like show appreciation for your partner. So like sometimes, like a lot of times most of the time he drives everywhere if we're going places, but sometimes I'll be like, I'll drive. Because I know that he's tired or he's been working all day. He's getting his PhD just like I am. So I'll be like, babe, I got it. And, I'll drive. And I think that still goes a long way. So mutual respect and kindness and how you handle your partner or your wife or your person or husband. I think that goes a long way. Like, I think that's sums it up for me as chivalrous, like how you handle the person that you love with loving and care, even when you're frustrated, how you decide to talk to them and handle that situation. Like my dad, I have never seen my dad raise his voice and be like disrespectful to my mom. He can be frustrated with her and he'll be like, Mama, I don't agree with what you're doing. And like they disagree without being disrespectful. And I remember growing up and I could see my mom like irate, and my dad would look at me and be like, you see, I'm not talking to your mama crazy. You see how I'm treating your mom. And like to this day, me and him are like super close. We probably talk like 3-4 times a day. But like when we talk about back in the day or like how he handles my mom, he's just such a a real like in my life, and he's like the example of love that I set for you is what I never want you to accept less than. And so he was very cognizant about the example of love him and my mom set for me. And I think having me come along 10 years after my brothers and sisters kind of also set the tone for that.
That's good. Well, yeah, when I think of, the longer you're with somebody and the things that you do, and, there's still things, it's funny because, the way we have our, my wife and I have our bank accounts, we'll go to a restaurant and we'll eat or something. And then she'll hand me the card as if I'm the one who has to pay, because it came out of her purse. I didn't have my wallet with me. But it just seems like, because we kind of have this roles, I guess, that we figured out. And those roles can be so much different depending on what works for a family. And I think, what I really, James, I don't know how it is with you and your wife and how you do. What are some of the things, James, maybe some of the things that over time that you continue to do with your spouse, but maybe a little bit different than maybe your kids do? Because I know I have adult children, so my oldest son is 36, and it's fun to watch, what they do, the influences that I have. And it's way different than my youngest sons who just turned or will turn 30 next year, and how they treat women. And it is fascinating to watch sometimes.
So I can't really tell you how my son treats women because my baby mama still has the umbilical cord attached.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
He doesn't really get out as I really don't know, right? I don't talk to him as much because she put a wedge between us, right? She's one of those strong, supposedly independent Black women that don't need a man. So if you don't need a man, I'm out, right? So me and my son have a very tenuous relationship at best. But this is my second marriage, right? The first marriage taught me communication, boundaries, and pleasantries, right? So me and my wife now, we're best friends, right? We have separate lives, but we have our joint domicile too. We have a life together. So I am a very direct person, right? I think I taught Alicia that when she was when she was under me. But sometimes you have to learn how to smooth the edges of what you're going to say, and you can't be honest all the time, right? If somebody says, "How's this dress look on me?" "Oh, it makes you look horrible, girl. You need to go to the gym or something," right? You might get stabbed. So you can't, there's a limit, right? And like my friend was saying there, chivalry is double-sided, but when we talk about chivalry, it's usually for the woman and not the man, right? Mm-hmm. So like I watch, right? Because I was getting ready for that. I knew you was going to have this subject. So I've been eating out, like basically I eat out at least maybe once a day, once every other day. And I observe how brothers treat the women they're with. I don't see too many chairs being pulled out. Now I might see a door open, but chairs being pulled out, I think me and maybe one other guy in the last 10 restaurants I've been to, right, we're pulling chairs out. I went to a very nice restaurant last night. My wife took me out for my birthday. And there was a few brothers in there, right? I didn't see one pull a chair out for his woman. They pulled their own chair out, right? And I was always, my mother taught me to open doors because she would stand there until you open the door, right? And there's a lot that we don't know when my friend there said chivalry is being suffocated. Well, suffocation is a method of killing something, right? If you suffocate it too long, it goes away. For instance, and I asked my nephew, any male, this question. If you're walking with a woman down the street, where are you supposed to stand? I get all these starry-eyed deer in the headlights look, right? A lot of young Black men don't know where to stand when they're walking with a woman. And if you think I'm lying, go to any city and you'll see the man walking inside and the woman by the street. All right. I was taught that it's supposed to be the opposite way, right? And never hit a woman ever, right? No matter how mad I get, my wife will tell you, I'll just go in and okay, baby, you got it, right? And walk away. And you have to know your boundaries, right? Because you can't escalate. You know, she says something, you make it worse, and then you keep going, and then next thing you know, you're knife fighting or you're at divorce court, right? So I say chivalry is dead because, I mean, it still lives within me. I'm sure it still lives within you. But the example you gave of the young man coming to your house, if I don't have any daughters, right? My father had a bunch of daughters. I have sisters, right? Even my nieces, if somebody went to, you know, because they used to stay at my mother's house sometime in the summer for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. And my mother would have them, yes, walk up to the door because they would call or text, meet me here. No, he got to come pick you up because we got to see who you are, right? You can't just take her away and we don't know who you are, how to find you. We don't know your name, nothing about it. And then all my sisters had to leave the house with a dime, right? And the dime was for a payphone.
A payphone,
I
yeah.
probably have never seen a payphone, right? Payphones were a dime or a nickel. I think it was a nickel. Right? That way you can call me, right? If something happens. But I say chivalry is dead, not to be any bad reflection on the young generation. But when I was growing up, and Dr. B was growing up, and some of y'all were growing up, we didn't have what was that song that Dr. Dre and Snoop made? Bees ain't nothing but and tricks, right? Remember that song?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that would have never had airplay in my day. Am I right, Dr. B?
Not even close.
Yeah, with the stuff, the influences on TV and stuff, twerking and all that stuff didn't exist then. And I think part of that, and then you see males walking around with their underwear hanging out, no belts, right? That, and then it's chivalry related because if you think less of yourself, then you're going to think lesser of whoever you're with, your partner, right? But growing up, you know, seeing people with their underwear hanging out and twerking and all this stuff, I mean, how do you expect to be married? Why should I treat you like a lady when you're not projecting that image? Am I off base there?
I mean, the question is, I mean, the better question is what location you in, though, because you're in the wrong location. You see these women. So the question is, I mean, it's like if you're in that area and you're there, then it's kind of like, I mean, you get what you see. So you shouldn't be in that area. That's how you feel.
But no, even with like Maddie. So, for instance, my daughter that's in college, she's 18. It's acceptable for them to wear midriff tops. I was raised in a covered sexy era where everything needs to be covered. You can still be sexy, but you're covered. I've never worn a midriff top. I probably feel uncomfortable. Nobody else should see my stomach but the person I'm with, right? Unless I'm like going swimming or something. And even then I still wear one piece because I feel like I'm somebody's mama. But it's just because I was raised that way. So I think how society has laxed the standards. Because like today we went to brunch and I was looking at Maddie. I'm like, where's the rest of your skirt? And she's like, Mom, it's not that bad. And I'm like, it's above your knees. And I was just kind of like, I was kind of taken back. But society, I feel like, has laxed the standards as to what is socially acceptable. Whereas you only wear things above the knees in the house. Where even me, like for me to go outside and I think they have to be right now, my shorts are like right at the knees. And that's okay. That's kind of like pushing it for me, but that's how I was raised. And I definitely didn't raise her like that. But when she is around her little friends at college, I don't know what they do. I just be like, Lord Jesus, pray for me.
Is that
That's true?
That's sending a message, you think, to men, or is it just this is the way it is?
It sends a message. And I showed her, we were at Walmart and we were, I got in the car and she put the buggy to the little buggy receptacle, right? And I watched this man watch my baby. I think she had on some short shorts, and I watched him watch her go all the way there and back. And we was in North Carolina, so she had to be probably like 15 or something, 14, 15. And she got back in the car, and I said, Maddie, you see that man right there? I said, I'm gonna have to shoot him in the face 35,000 times because he just watched you walk to the put the buggy up and come back to the car. And I said, look how old he is. I said, so when you wear stuff like that, you send a message. And she said, well, you know, kids these days like to debate, but she was like, well, Mom, that's never a reason for somebody to be raped or for somebody to be mistreated. And I said, I understand, but why even put yourself in that situation? Why are you showing things that don't even need to be shown? You could wear stuff like that in the house only. Why would you wear something like that in public? So I do think it sends a message. I don't think it warrants disrespect, but I definitely think it sends a message. What are your thoughts, man? Because I'm over talking. I'm sorry.
No, I'm listening. Um, I agree with everything you said, but it's to the point of, and once again, that's where us as parents and male figures, females, we continue to set that example.
But even when we went to breakfast with Tatiana, he saw his daughter with a midriff top on. His face got tight.
Hey, it's like, and it's kind of like, it's kind of like, all right, kid, you got a midriff top on. What's he trying to show? But Dad, I'm an athlete. Like, I'm sorry, then. But when I'm running, I don't got nothing. No, I'm like, okay, I hear your debate. However, is only just as important as them trying to find their identity as parents. You got to continue. This is about parenting course now. As parents, you have to just continue to coach them through this process, because in my mind, you never stop being parents. You're just more or less trying to, you keep the guardrails go from being seen to invisible, but they're still there. So in no particular cases, you can only explain and express, hey, it's not the most appropriate thing to wear. However, it's better than walking around with a bathing suit off. Like, now I got to figure out ways to make it better when it's not.
Right.
So, what I want to do is I'm going to show you guys a video. And then I want to kind of talk about mixed messages, because I think that's what we're getting to is there's mixed messages in. You see somebody dressed and then your expectations change, and then maybe even the way you treat somebody, and then we end up on both sides of it. So I'm going to show this quick video, and then we'll talk about it. So let me jump here. I got to get good at doing this fast. Add on and it. All right. Do you guys see the screen?
Yes.
All right.
If you're trying to get to know me, you got to pay my rent, help me pay child support. I got 3 baby mamas and 5 kids. When a new cop, you got to cook 5-star meals every day, all day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a late night snack. You need to line up every week to stay fresh. And when a new 2K drop, you got a cop.
What?
If you want to be with me.
That's a lot.
DCE.
DCE, what is that?
Dry Coochie Energy. Yeah.
What?
Uh-huh. You can't do all that. I can't really talk to you.
A lot. That's ridiculous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, then I can't rock with you then. I can't do it.
Serious.
I can't talk to you. You can't do all that. I can't do it. You ain't for me. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm for the league.
I'm just trying to get to know you.
You know me. You got to pay my rent. Let me pay 3 baby mamas and 5 kids. When a new Jordans come out, you got to cop. You got to cook 5-star meals every day, all day.
All right. Now, I think that, that's a little bit on the, I hope that's on the extreme side. That's not reality. But when we talk about mixed messages and we talk about, both sides, and I think they're playing on, this is, what women usually will say to men, if you're going to be with me, this is what will happen. And he's saying, if you're going to be with me, what are these mixed signals that kids are getting based on the social media, based on the, Facebook showing all the best parts of people's lives and not the worst, and then it creates these expectations. And then I'll stop there, and then I have one more question. Y'all still there?
Rico doesn't have social media, so he can't answer.
Okay.
I do think, I don't know, because I don't really fall into the hype, but I do see a lot of it where, like, women will say, oh, he pulled up in a Kia or a Honda. I'm not going on a date with him. Or, we went on our first date and he wanted to pay, I can't even think of what it's called, but he wanted to pay Dutch, right? And I'm not going on a second date with him. And I'm like, wow. And so when I talked to Maddie about dating, she's like me, where we're unmaterialistic. Like the type of car that you pull up in does not decide if I'm going to get in and go to dinner with you, unless it's a windowless van, right? But I think it creates unrealistic expectations. And then I think when you go into a relationship without a blank canvas, it doesn't have to be completely blank, but when you have all of these expectations and marks somebody have to hit, I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment. I will say that.
From a social media perspective, those types of reels, I think there are a bunch of don't accept this type of action. So you can take that same reel and your kids see it and they understand that's not what I want in life. That type of individual because there's nothing being offered in that situation. So that's a good news, bad news type of situation. So I'm like, it's a bad impression of a relationship, but it is a good impression of things you don't want in life, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I can totally see that. James, you want to say something?
Yeah, well, so getting back to what you said, and it wasn't fair to categorize younger people, you have to realize all of us in this conversation are above average in income and goals and things like that. But we're talking about the average person in the street, right? When I was single, it was all about the bag. It was a sense of entitlement. If you want to date me, kind of like what he said, you want to date me, I need my nails done. There's certain quality of life I'm looking for you. And then, if you date for so long, they're like, are we going to get married? Are you just playing with me? You need to let me know what you want, straight up front. So the courting and chivalry, and I think chivalry is a byproduct of courting, right? We don't court anymore, right? If you ask somebody what courting is from today's generation, they don't know what you're talking about, right? When I dated my first wife, she was a Haitian Dominican, right? So they were still stuck in the old ways. I had to go to the house, my visit. Well, I'm gonna say the first two visits were supervised, right? Well, they were in the room, we were talking. There was none of this, I'm taking you out in a way without the parents knowing. And they asked, what I was doing in my life and, what my goals and aspirations are. So I'm going to say the sense of entitlement that video just showed, right, is kind of synonymous what females are looking for today. Not all females, I'm generalizing, but most females that you see, and again, it's because I think, and I love rap music. I grew up to it, right? I know a lot of rappers, right? But a lot of negative influences come from there and social media. I watch, I used to watch, I can't remember his name now, but he used to talk about women's expectations. And they were like, he needs 6 figures, he needs to be 6 foot, and he needs something else accoutrement with 6 inches, right? So I was like, wow, those expectations are unrealistic because the average African American male doesn't make 6 figures. What is it, Dr. B? Was it 5%? Something like that? It's a very low ratio. So you're looking for something that doesn't exist, right? You think you deserve that, but are you on that level to get that? Do you make 6 figures, right? Are you 6 foot, right? So I used to challenge people when they used to ask me, because I'm live and direct, right? And you asked me where I'm from. I'm from New York City. I've lived in a bunch of cities, and I was in the military. I've been like 49 countries. And I will say I have a pretty good idea of how people act and react to things, right? And not just Black people, just in general people. But the sense of entitlement is ridiculous, right? Did you guys see that video where a guy took a sister out to Cheesecake Factory? Did you see that video? And she didn't want to get out the car. She said, this guy pulls up the cheesecake, and she was live on Facebook. He pulled up the Cheesecake Factory. Who does he think I am? Right? And she said, you getting out? No, I'm not. Look how I look. Do I look like a female that would go to Cheesecake Factory? What? Cheesecake Factory is a little expensive, right? For a first date, we should be able to drink some coffee or take a walk. That's not going to happen today. It's very rare that that's going to happen, right? Take a walk. Right? I can walk by myself, right? So keeping those things in mind again, I think it's a sense of entitlement, and a lot of females have emasculated themselves so much with I don't need a man and I got my own money and I'm a boss chick and all this stuff, that I think that has permeated the cabasis of many African American females, especially young ones.
I think you're right. You're spot on. I have a friend that's a lawyer in the military, went to Howard, Delta, no kids. She's very pretty. And she has this list. We were deployed together just recently and we would always talk. I'm like, why are you by yourself? And she's like, oh, he got to make 6 figures. He got to have, he got to have homes. He has to have deeds, degrees, titles, at least 1 acre, all this stuff. And I said, you know when you're going to find this, Tina? And she said, when? I said, when you are that. When you can match everything on your list, that's when you will find that, because then you will circulate in crowds of people that have those things. But as long as you are just somebody that wants those things and wants somebody that has them, you'll never be able to really obtain it. It'll be out of your reach. And she kind of chuckled, but she later on told me that I was absolutely correct. Because I'm like, you don't even get to scratch the surface with these guys. Because she uses a lot of dating apps and she goes on a lot of dates. And she's like, second date, she said this one guy planned a whole day for her and then went on the date. And she was like, I already had a date for dinner. And I went to brunch with him and I had a date for dinner and I had to get out of there. And I couldn't believe that he planned a whole day for me. And me and Rico was like, you probably missed out on your blessing because he thought enough of you to have a whole day planned for things for you to do. So brunch and then a museum, then they was going to get coffee, then it was dinner, and I told her she probably missed out on her blessing because she had back-to-back dates booked. So I think it really has sunk into their head of this unrealistic expectation of what they want from the other person. Because more so than what you can provide for me, I'm more so worried about like thoughts, values, mindset, belief system. It's a lot of other things that I didn't worry about as when you met me initially that I worry about now. Like, do you pray? What's your faith life like? Like, do you believe in mental health? Those are questions that should be relevant versus you took me to Cheesecake Factory because I absolutely love Cheesecake Factory. So,
me too.
Yeah.
Alicia, is there and now I'm thinking of, women who are more mature, women who maybe already had a child, had the experience being a single mom, like you did at one point. Is there an age or maturity time when women just say, I've had enough, I don't want to deal with the game, I have my own money, and then you hear, I don't need a man, and then they just say, forget it for the rest of their lives, or well, I'll wait till their kids get older, or because of the people say that there's a pool of men that's just not there, of good men. And you have to search to find it, and it's just not worth it. I know, like for me, when I think of, I don't know would there would ever be a time when I wouldn't want a companion, no matter how old I get, and I have one, so I'm not looking, but even if I, were to get divorced at 60 years old right now, I think I would still want a companion. But I see that differently in Black women, where it's just, hey, I'm done. I'm not going to deal with the men ever again. And they are able to go on. Is that something that is prevalent or something that you hear from all your friends, or is it, or how did you deal with it? Because obviously you have someone now. So it wasn't, I don't want to go the rest of my life without. What's your thoughts?
It is prevalent, especially when you're very successful, because like James was saying about his wife, like Rico is my best friend and we do a lot of things together. And I really love his company more so than anything. Like, I just love being around him. However, with all of the stuff I have going on, like I'm getting my PhD, a major in the Army, I'm going to be a research scientist. I have all this stuff that I'm have on my plate that I want to do. What I don't have time for is to worry about who he calling, who he texting, why he not doing this or why he not doing that. So if you're in my life, you have to be a sure thing and you can't be playing no games, and we have to have full transparency. Because the moment I have to worry about who he with, why he not with me, where he at, like, you're done. And there's no explanation. I'm cutting you off at the ankles because you taking away from my hustle. So the minute I got to stop thinking about all the stuff that Lisa want to do and my 2 daughters, then I got to think about you, and you supposed to be a mature man, you're done. I need full transparency, and I need to be able to have full access and just know that you're there and you're serious about being in my life. Because if you're going to take away, if you're going to come in my life and then subtract from my hustle, and I'm moving at such a fast pace, we just don't have a tolerance for it. And I think that's where a lot of women are at. And that's something, and I will say that he gave me, like, that I've never had, surprisingly, in any relationship, is like full transparency. Like, since day one we started talking, like, I've always had I had an Android, I will admit, but he converted me over to iPhone. And he was like we shared locations. I had a key to his place, like, and I always have had the passcode to his phone, right? It's like no secrets. And I was like, wow, like, this is a lot. And it's not even a control mechanism. He was like, baby, it's a safety mechanism. If something happens to you, this is the last place you were at. If something happens to me, this is where you are. And like, he taught me all about the iPhone because I didn't have an iPhone. But like, I was married for 10 years and I didn't have that type of access to my husband. So he's giving me a different type of level of trust and comfort in a relationship than I've ever had. But I will say, the time period from when I was divorced from that domestic violence relationship to in 2012, when I decided to remarry, that was a big thing for me when I was dating. And I was like, I don't have full access, but you want full access to my body and you want full access to me as a person, but I don't know where you are. So I was so busy trying to like finish my degree, we got off to school. So I think a lot of times when, as Black women or women in general, they're so successful, the last thing they need is something else to babysit or something else to worry about if you're not going to come and add to, because I can absolutely add value to his life as well without subtracting, because I'm his sure thing as well. Like, he doesn't have to worry where I'm at, who I'm texting. He pick up my phone at any time. Like, it's no, that part of me where I used to worry, I don't have that anymore. So
I would say that when it comes down to Black women and Black men, everything my baby just said, I agree with. But I also believe the flip side of that coin is that there are men out there that are equally great catches, and they have their own set of standards, and therefore, if said woman is not meeting their standards, not what you see in the video, but there are men out there that have degrees, jobs, willing to make compromises in those types of locations, in different areas of their life, but said woman is not there in order to even attempt that. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a strictly the Black woman not wanting a relationship. Sometimes it's just there are Black men out there that's just like, hey, I know my worth. And when men know their worth, they're not going to take nothing either.
So what's on your list? Like, you have degrees, titles, and all this other stuff. So as a successful Black man, what's on your list?
I like stuff like I like compromise.
Mm-hmm.
I like let's see here. If we want to go down this list.
No, I'm just saying, you put it out there.
So in my particular situation, once again, every man is different. So with me, I like the things that you can't give physically. Most people, and the physical things that I want you to understand that men have feelings also. And so consideration, compromise, being intentional about the things, about thinking about me also. Like, I'm not the only, like, for most men, they're thinking about the woman. But hey, how about you support some of the things I do? And that's what you do. Are you pushing my goals also? Why can't both things be true? Why can't I push your goal and my goal? Why do it gets to a point to where when you start, I have friends, single guys, when they get to dealing with successful women, it gets to a point to where it's like, it's all about their career. And they forget, hey, I got a career also. But they're like, support me. And when you look at the grand scheme of things in life, just in general, society is set up more for the Black female to be more successful than a Black male. You can look it up. Doctor probably can confirm it. But society has set that up. Therefore, from a male's perspective, our bar may not be this high, but however, if you can't meet the simple things, which you are, then you're gonna stay single. Because our bar is already, it's bad enough you're a Black male. It's kind of complicated at times being a Black, but it's different when you can't get simple things like consideration, simple things like, hey, you look nice. It's very simple because, once again, people forget from a Black male perspective, being a Black male, trying to date a Black woman, sometimes our feelings get left out. And many men may say they're harder than masonry nails, but at the end of the day, they want to know that their lady appreciate them. And if black women can't show that appreciation, then therefore it's not our fault that you're single at that moment.
What were you gonna say, James?
So I was gonna say we don't want to get you in trouble there, Rico. But I have a lot to say. But I think the inequities between African American women and women of other races being in relationships, because black women excel faster than black men for whatever reason, right? Black men we have to fight all fronts, right? Women, white males, white females, our job, society, cops following us, everything, right? So when we come home, our house needs to be our sanctuary, right? Our fortress from the outside. So I can't have a woman inside my house causing me stress too, right? 25 years in the military was stressful enough, right? I don't need to come home and have that stress, right? I've dated women that were doctors, lawyers, all PhDs, all that, right? And then there's a certain expectation of the way they want you to behave, right? And some even go as far as, hey, I'm the boss at work and I'm the boss here too. And I'm going to be your boss. I'm not that. I can't do that, right? So a lot of there's a disproportionate number of black females that are more successful than black men. So because of that, you might have some black men that are insecure, right? Especially if you're making more money than me, right? I might not want to be around you, right? If you're more successful than me, might not want to be around you, right? When I graduated with my master's degree, right? And I was telling some of my cousins and my family and just people I knew who were kind of street people, it was like, so what? What, you my master, right? That attitude, you get more praise coming out of jail than you do out of college in some communities, right? In some of our communities. So I will say that, it's troubling. The statistics are troubling. And this is why when I was talking to you, Dr. B, about topics, this topic could go on forever, right? Yeah. I was telling Dr. B, Alicia, and Rico, I was at a National Association of Minority Contractors in Atlanta. We were all sitting, a mixed group, black males, black females. We were drinking, talking, watching the game. The subject came up, and it was almost a knife fight, right? Because I made a comment that the older black women get, the pool of available black men shrink, right? I don't know if I'm right, if I hit the nail on the head with that, Alicia, but that's what I observe and that's what I see. And I hear a lot of black women complain about black men. And if you go out and you observe, like when you're out in a nice restaurant or whatever, you'll see groups of females eating together. You won't see too many couples out together, right? And then Rico, last thing, my hat's off to you, man. I can't give nobody my phone password. You're not getting to my house if I'm single. That's good that you do that, and I respect that, right? But see, therein lies, there could be misinterpretation, right? If my wife can unlock my phone and I have a lot of female friends. I got, females that I've groomed in the military, that I'm in Rotary Club, NACP, whatever. They call me and say, hey, how you doing, hun? That might be a problem, right? Why is she calling you hun? What's going on, right? And that might put this.
Now, what I'm saying is that in those situations there, I mean, that's I hate to say it, Mr. Jones, that's your fault. In that particular, the only reason I'm saying that is because you got to be intentional about your love. I mean, everybody got to. I mean, in that particular in those type of situations, you got to be intentional. And if you're not showing your intentions, then and that's right, wrong, and different. And like you said, you got your reasons why, and I get it. But the thing is that you want the level of confidence that you want from your lady being on your side. You got to show her the same thing. You got to be able to show her that. And I'm listening.
Right. So I've been married 15 years. I bring my wife in right now. We best friends. I respect her privacy. She respects mine. We don't have no problem. We got separate bank accounts and we have joint bank accounts, right?
Makes sense.
3 reasons people get divorced. 3 reasons. communication,
Mm-hmm.
infidelity, and finances.
Yeah.
Right? So I think I conquered all three of those. We don't have no issues. Basically, this is my second marriage. I sat down and basically gave my wife a counseling statement. This is what I will accept. This is what I won't accept. You know, I can love you from a distance, love you close, up to you. But you know, a lot of the problems that other people have that are married, I don't have. Oh, my wife won't let me take a trip. One of my friends, hey, let's go to which? Oh, my wife won't let me take a trip. What? You won't let you take a trip? Okay. Okay, let's go get something to eat. Well, I gotta take a picture of us so she knows I'm with you. What? Oh, right. That's too much. Like said, if I gotta worry about you, we don't need to be together. Right? I can do bad or good by myself. And it's been working for me for almost 60 years. I'm 59 as of yesterday. Right? I've been in a lot of relationships and I have my scars from those relationships. But you learn and grow, right? In the Army, you do an AAR, right? After action review. So you know what your sustains are and then your proves. Alicia, you know about that, right? So I do that in my relationships too. So I think everybody needs to do that. And it's not for a lack of trust and transparency, because I'm home all the time, unless I'm taking care of business or traveling, right? But you should have that level of trust where I don't have to look over your shoulder. I don't have to worry about your phone. I don't want your combination phone because I don't want to get the wrong impression either, right? Because I've been in situations where my phone, somebody has pinged my phone. Hey, sexy, what you doing now? I grew up with MC Light's cousin was my first girlfriend, right? And we still cool. We're like family. So she might hit me. What's up? What's up, Playboy? Right? Because that's how we used to talk in New York. That's how we grew up, and we were friends. So if a wrong woman sees that, right, that might be a problem. So to avoid problems, we even have different Facebook accounts, right? We're not friends. We don't need to be friends because I don't want you. Who's that liking your pictures all the time? That starts arguments. So I've learned how to eliminate arguments and confrontation. That makes sense. I'm sorry, Rico.
No, that's cool. Thank you for and however you create the relationship that works, they got to be built on trust. Alicia, I have a couple questions for you as we wrap this up. There's been a couple comments on our live feed. Nathan has said this is very understandable. It applies to parties. Tahani says she likes you. Alicia doing stuff there. Excellent point, James. Development needs to be a deep dive, so we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. And the serious analysis from many perspectives. The question that I think as we think about older women that are successful, so the first question I have for you, Alicia, is does it go both ways? Because I think that's what James is kind of talking about, is we've kind of figured out a way where both ways work. You know, for me, my wife has access to my phone anytime she wants. I don't have, there's nothing, but I've been married a long time and I don't have, the trust is so much there on both sides. I have access to her phone. She has access to my phone. If somebody texts me and says that stuff, she just says, who's that? And why are they saying it? And I said, whatever it is, whatever the reason is, if somebody says something like that, because there's just that trust that there's nothing there. But on the other side of it, because Rico kind of talked about, some of the, courtesies and saying this is good and having his phone open. Is that something that Black women are willing to do on both sides of it? And then the second question I have, and you can answer both of these, is where do you find a Rico? Or where did you find a Rico? Because I think there's a lot of women who are trying to say, I need to find this man, and they're looking in the wrong places. And Rico even said there's a lot of us out there that make the money, that have the degrees and have this, but a lot of us are probably taken. So where is it that you find that person?
Okay, to answer your first question about, can you say it again? Because it was like a compound question.
Transparency. Yeah, transparency. Does it go both ways?
Oh, yes. Now, I will say just because I have access to his phone, I don't go through his phone. I mean, I could at any time, but I don't feel like I need to. But it's just like, if we're riding somewhere and he's like, unlock my phone to play a playlist, or if somebody calls him, I can unlock his phone. Or if he forgets to turn off his alarm, which he does so many times, and we're laying in the bed and it's going off, I'm like, give me your phone. And then I'm like, shh, and I turn it off because he don't know how to, he taught me how to work the iPhone, but he don't know how to work all the time. So I think trust goes both ways. Like, I trust you enough to give you my passcode, but also don't go searching for shit because I haven't given you a reason. And if I saw that text message, I'd be like, hey, baby, such and such said, hey, baby, what's up? What you want me to say? And he'll tell me. No way. Because I'm Southern. So everybody's a honey, a baby, a sweetie. And I don't think nothing of it. Just because I say, hey, baby, how you doing? Doesn't mean that I want you. You know what I mean? So I can think beyond that.
But that's you. What about the other Black women that are part of your circle in your life and that are in the same situations? Are they willing to
stop reading into stuff that's not there? Like, I don't know. I you know what? For my parents to be married 54 years, I would say my mom is still a very jealous woman. And my daddy be like, like, come on, Gwen, I've been with you this long. And my mom just be like the waitress could come and take his order and just talk to him like, hey, baby, like, hey, sir, how you doing? Take his order, and to kind of linger too long or something, she'll leave. My mom be like, do you know her? And I'd be like, Mom, really? This lady is old enough to be his daughter. I would like, get it together. And I mean, my dad kind of chuckles and it's cute because it means like she's still like, they still love each other. But I never want to be that. And I think like the example of love that we give our kids really teaches us how to love, how to give and receive love. And I wrote down something when James was talking about him and his wife and how he said that like when he was dating, he had some people that he dated where it's like, you're the boss at home, you're the boss at work, and then you come home and you want to be the boss. And I will say that like the man in your life has to create a safe place for you to make a soft landing. And that's what Rico has done for me. Cause like, I'm very much running things at work, but when I come home, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to actually be Elisa and not Major Sweet. You know what I mean? I want to come home and like take off one hat and just be in a soft place. But in my previous marriage, like I would come home and like things wouldn't be done. So I would get off of work from being a commander and have to come home and be the S3 and be like, okay, we got to get homework done. We got to get dinner cooked. I got to get these clothes in the thing. And I'm looking at him like, then what are you here for? So the place, the environment that you create in your house, because it absolutely has to be your safe place, kind of it decides who the woman gets to be at home. You know what I mean? Like if I come home and you already have prep dinner or lay something out and the clothes are already there, the kids are kind of working on their homework, then I can kind of decompress. But if I got to come home and ain't nothing done and I got to do 5, 6, 7, 8 days, now I'm coming home from being in charge to telling you what to do because you ain't did it. So creating the safe place to take the work hat off. Yes. And then creating whatever space that, of transparency works for your relationship. I think because me and him both have been hurt before. We met in the Army. To ask where we met in the Army, but we didn't date in the military. We were just friends and we just always had kept in touch along the way. And then this last relationship almost took me out and I was like, I'm gonna be single for the rest of my life. And he just came. I don't know. He was a beautiful surprise. I wasn't looking for nobody. I'll say that. I wasn't looking for nobody. And he truly is my friend. And I think us being friends first really helps me consider how I deal with him and how I talk to him, especially like if I'm frustrated about something he don't like, I'll sleep on it. And then I'll wake up and be like, babe, you know what? And then I'll talk to him and he listens and he's like, okay. Versus I know the younger me would have just felt it and then just blurted it out. And kind of how we were talking about earlier, how you have to be like an iron fist, a velvet glove. Like you can't just be an iron fist all the time. You can't just say things the way they feel because you'll hurt your spouse's feelings. So I think consideration and thoughtfulness is a love language. And you absolutely have to handle the people you love with care, with that velvet glove. And you can't be an iron fist on some things because I stand on business about things that I don't like or things that I won't tolerate when we get married. Because he did court me, right? So I'll tell you a short story, not to prolong it, but like we met we met a long time ago, but in North Carolina is where we first started dating. And then I was shortly going to go to Command and General Staff College. And I was like, look, I'm going to get this accelerated master's. Like, I got to go. And he was like, he had a really good job in North Carolina. He was like, I'll come see you every month. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't have any expectations. Like, okay. He came every month to see me, if not sometimes twice a month. So we went on dates, like we recorded, and I was like, okay, this guy kind of liked me. So then when it came time to pick our next assignments after this 10 months, I wanted to go overseas to give my daughter like a overseas experience before she graduated high school. And like, if you're already in like Korea or Europe, it's easy for you to go to like Thailand, Bali, you know, Vietnam, Laos, you know, because you're already there. So I wanted to do that. And he begged me not to. And I'm like, I'm not making no life decisions up with somebody that's not my husband. I'm about to live my life. And he was like, wherever else you go, I'll be there. And he was like, even if you go overseas, I'll still be there. But it's going to be really hard for me to bond with your family if we're isolated. And I was like, So I thought about it. So then I picked Colorado, and he went and got a job in Colorado, and he moved there before I did. So he got his place, he set up, and then I moved into my house. And then he was like, it's too far to be 20 minutes away. So he actually moved into like the retirement housing because he's retired. And so he could be just like minutes away from me. And we ended up still courting so he could come over every day, eat with us and everything. Because my parents were like, y'all are not living together because y'all not married. I was like, Lord Jesus. So moving, I know, right? My parents are like, they're good, but they're kind of crazy. So then moving now, we moved to Baton Rouge, and I was like, I'm definitely not going to live away from you. Like, I miss you so much when we're not together. So I think like having those 3 years of, it was like 3.5 years, that time period of us just living separately and dating really helped me get to know him as a person and help create a level of trust and transparency in our relationship as far as access to. And then I think now this is our first time living together, and it's been great so far. Like I love waking up to him every day and seeing him every day. And it's just different because I didn't do that at first. Like I did everything right with my first 2 marriages, especially like my second marriage. Lord Jesus. We didn't even sleep together before we got married. And so we did premarital counseling, did everything right by the church. And then the marriage unfolded and uncoiled, I learned things about him that had I took the time to date him, like I'm dating and courting 3 years prior, would have known. I probably been like, nah, player, you good on that. We better off friends. Instead of thinking that everything I did right in the eyes of God was not what he had in plans for me. So.
To count all that, the things I've done was show intentions, and I think your intentions is what helped everything in order to maintain that relationship. I seen her goals, and I'm not supporting her goals. I also knew my goals, and I knew that my goals can be manipulated to a point and still be successful. Now, all the things that I've done was all about trying to be a supportive teammate. And it's like Mr. James said earlier, that hindsight is 20/20, and you learn how to communicate better. And I believe that when it comes down to like gender roles, sometimes there are certain things she can do that only she can do. And there's things I can only do, but then there's that set of roles like laundry, cooking, cleaning that we both can do in order to be successful. And so all the intentions that I made was because to show that, hey, I have your best interests at heart. And on the same token is that my expectations behind that was, hey, if I'm going to give you this much access to my life and I'm making this much compromise, I'm expecting the same from you. I mean, it's very simple. And I shouldn't have to, from a male's perspective, we still want those, like I said, basic expectations in life. We still have goals, but can my goal align with your goal? And when it comes down to a successful Black man, our goals are still there. But to women out there, you have to be supportive also. And if you're not supporting us and our goals, you'll never get that chair pulled back. You're going to find yourself reading Corinthians at night by yourself. And the biggest reason, because once again, we have goals, and you got to be willing to meet a person where they're at. And men do it all the time. Men may meet a woman, X amount of kids, have a mediocre job, and she wants that guy to meet her there and support her way. However, women are not willing to make that same compromise and still look at that individual as a male. Now, if you can't do that, then once again, that is how you know you're missing you may miss that blessing because that could be the guy for her. And that's just very simple because I say again, women want it both ways. They want the guy that has the house, the land, the car, the big dog, and everything else. But they also want, when they're down, for a guy to accept them with the 2 kids, the mediocre job, the bad credit, and all this other stuff. And why can't I find love? But you gotta be willing to accept men the same exact way, because it's a give and pull. And if you're not willing to give a little bit, then I say again, they're gonna be forever be single. And for the males out there, I mean, you may see the actions that I'm doing, but that's just how I am. The way I move may not work in your situation, but that's just my way of showing my intentions. Because I told her like this, I said, babe, I got good news and bad news. I said, bad news, I ain't going nowhere. Good news, ain't going nowhere.
Oh goodness.
So I mean, so it's kind of like, I mean, and over time, I mean, we will eventually, you meet a person where they at, and then from there, you over time you'll continue. You'll teach them how to treat you, but as individual, you'll grow and you'll change yourself in order to be happy. And if you're not willing to make those compromises, I mean, it is what it is. You're gonna be forever single, and that's just my opinion. So
look,
I think
oh, go ahead.
Okay.
No, it was nothing important really. I was just gonna say he saw my name on the sign outside where I was commanding in North Carolina, and he came in to see me, and my secretary said, "Girl, some tall, handsome, dark-skinned man came to see you." I said, "I don't know nobody like that." I said, "What's his name?" She said, he didn't leave his name. He said he'd be back tomorrow. I said, "Well," and I thought about it. I said, "I don't know anybody like that." And he came later on that week, and I was like, "What are you doing here? I haven't saw you in years." And he said, "I saw your name on the sign outside, and I wanted to come say hello." And I think when he walked into my office, I was like, "Damn, he looked good. He still looked good." And then we just talked about, because we caught up over the years. I hadn't seen him in years, but the fact that if he would have never, because he was retiring and he was in the same building as my office, and he was at the support center, and he saw my name. Had he never stopped, I would have never thought twice about seeing him again or talking to him. And the way my secretary described him, I was like, "I don't know nobody tall, dark, handsome, single. What? No." So it's funny.
I was 6'5" that day.
Oh my goodness.
That day I was 6'5".
Whatever. What you was gonna say, James?
So all I was gonna say, when you said cooking and all that kind of stuff, those gender roles, they should melt away. If you're married, right?
Yeah.
I do most of the cooking here, right? And I wash clothes. I don't have a job. I run a few businesses, whatever. And intentions are good. Like me and my wife go to spa together, right? My brother thinks that's feminine, right? Mm-hmm. It's not feminine to take care of yourself, especially at a certain age. You should be secure enough in your masculinity that you should be able to do anything, right? I mean, I could jump off the table and beat you down, right? After I finish my massage. But the gender roles go away. So, I think that a lot of brothers now, I'm going to switch it to brothers now. We want to be so hard, right? And the women don't want us to be too hard. They don't want us to be too soft. So you got to find your way in the middle there, right? Because I know some guys where I'm from, the woman said the wrong thing, they might be on the ground, right? That's too hard, right? Or they're in jail or whatever, right? And then you don't want to be too soft. You don't want to cry every time somebody says something. "Oh, this guy's a wimp," right? So it's hard to be a black man because you got to stay in that buffer, right? You got to know, you got to gauge where you're at depending on your partner. That's all I have. I know Dr. B's chomping at the bits. Come on, let's wrap it up.
I know. Sorry.
That's cool. No, you guys, this has been very enlightening, and I appreciate you guys being so vulnerable and honest with us, because I think if we're going to heal some of these things, we have to talk about it. We have to be able to spend the time and say, yes, yes, it's hard to be a black man because there's all kind of things that's on us all. But at the same time, it's probably just as hard to be a black woman and to have expectations that are impossible to meet in some cases, or so easy to meet, or being taken advantage of. And so we have to find these ways and these roles and these things that we need to do. I absolutely believe in the institution of marriage, and but I think where it falls down is if the two people going into a marriage don't believe it's a covenant that we have to work through our things. And no man should ever hit a woman, period. That's me, and there is absolutely no reason. You can't come convince me that there's a reason. But at the same time, there's verbal abuse, right? There's all kind of ways that we can abuse each other, and we have to have that trust and that respect that's in there. And so, thank you guys for being on another episode here of the Why Love Waits. We will come back next week. We will be live next week. I think for the folks that are on our YouTube feed and sending in messages and being there for us, and then we will look forward to seeing each of you guys who are a part of this week. Our crew will be back. This is Christmas this week, so I know folks are traveling and that kind of stuff. Next week, I want to talk about finances and money and relationship, because I know, just as James was talking about here, I got my account, she got her account, and we have a joint account, and that works. Well, some people want to have both accounts together. Some people say, I got my money, I make more than you, and so I'm the boss. Some people say, well, I make less than you, but I still get to be the boss. So we want to unpack this thing called money, because here's what I'll say about money. People say, well, money isn't that important. And I will submit to you that money is up there with oxygen. Because if you don't have it, it allows you to operate and move in and out of our society, because that's the way we barter and we get things. I am not going to be a farmer. I'm going to grow my food and put it out. I want to pay somebody to do that. And so we barter with money. And it's when you don't have it, when you think about somebody who doesn't have money, that's when a whole bunch of problems happen. That's when they said they like, I can't breathe when I don't have enough money to do this stuff. And we were talking about successful people who are doing things in life here, and a lot of relationships, James even said it, fall because of finances. And so we're going to break that down and talk about that next week. So you guys have an awesome, wonderful, just incredible day today. Don't forget your God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to, and we will see you on the next one.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Good to see you guys. Good seeing you guys again.
Absolutely.